guys, and welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today it is the final game of the year. It is the preview for the Champions League final, and it is such a privilege that we're covering this for the second time on this podcast. Obviously Liverpool a couple of years ago, and I'm just so glad to be at this stage once again. I'm so glad that the season isn't over, and I'm so glad that we have got one more opportunity to win a Champions League. In this last time in this format, before the Champions League switches over to the Swiss format, we're going to be playing one last game in this format, and it's a Champions League final against Borussia Dortmund. So it's a huge game, and I'm really excited about it. I think this has potential to be a very difficult game, because I think a lot of people are going to underestimate Dortmund. Because it makes sense. Dortmund haven't been great in the league, but in the Champions League they've been really good. So what are your thoughts on the game as a prospect in terms of overall?
Yeah, I think it's a big game because it's two teams with a lot of history, in my opinion. Both teams, I think we've been quite equal in terms of the head-to-head over the last 10 to 15 years. And I believe that, of course, Madrid are the team that everyone expects to win, but it's the Champions League and you never know what can happen. I don't think Dortmund have been particularly good in the Champions League, but they have managed to get results in those big nights against big teams. So, of course, you can't underestimate them whatsoever.
Yeah, it's everyone wanted Dortmund as their draw, and yet Dortmund are the ones to come out the other side. They've given everyone a chance to play Dortmund, and yeah, they're the ones that come through each time. But we're going to be doing this preview like we normally do. We're going to be talking about Dortmund first. Let's talk about the main guy who's been catching all the headlines in these last few months. Is Jadon Sancho, and in terms of his rejuvenation since joining back with Dortmund and leaving Erik ten Hag and Manchester United, it just shows you what a move away from Manchester United can do for you. But Jadon Sancho has been really good since he's come back to Dortmund, especially in the Champions League. I wouldn't say he's been exceptional in the Bundesliga, but I think he's been pretty good in the Champions League. And each game he's had his impact. He's been really direct and really good when he's in possession. He's just been really fantastic for Dortmund, and he's causing problems for whatever team he's playing. Against PSG, if we recall, Nuno Mendes had a horrible game, and this is one of the best fullbacks in the world. He's really good. I really rate Mendes, and yeah, he had a really torrid time against Jadon Sancho, despite the physical and athletic ability that Nuno Mendes has. I think he had a really tough time, and so Jadon Sancho can cause these problems for any fullback in the world. I have a bit of confidence, because I know that Ferland Mendy can lock down any attacker in world football. So I'm a bit confident, but it's just when Jadon Sancho likes to roam, he likes to get across the pitch, he likes to switch sides, he likes to get through the middle, and so Jadon Sancho is not going to be going up against Ferland Mendy 100% of the time, and so I'm a bit nervous about when those switches happen, and he's going to be going up against Nacho, or he's going to be going up against Carvajal, he's going to be going against other guys. Then maybe there could be a few problems, but I think overall I'm pretty content, and I'm pretty content into seeing that Ferland Mendy could probably deal with Jadon Sancho. But what have your thoughts been on Jadon Sancho in these last 6 months?
Yeah, of course, he's a player that I like a lot. I think he has a lot of talent, a lot of natural ability, and of course he can be a good player. Of course, there were some off-field issues, at Manchester United. That, of course, it's unlikely to happen maybe at another club like maybe Madrid, or maybe teams like Bayern, etc. These off-field issues tend to only happen at certain clubs, and so, it's difficult to really pinpoint a player in a negative way because of issues like that, because of course we as fans and supporters, we never get the opportunity to see behind the scenes and understand exactly what's going on. So I honestly sympathize for him, because we have to all understand that we're all human beings, especially if you believe that you're being treated unfairly, whether it's at home or maybe at a job, etc. It's difficult, maybe many will see it in a positive way, that either he stood up for himself, or either he was too I guess, immature to not apologize. So many people see it differently, but of course, I would sympathize with him on a human point of view. I think he's a good. I think he's an excellent player. And from what I've seen, he looks like a decent person as well. But in terms of his talent, of course, he's doing well. He is, of course, getting the opportunity to play more constantly. Become the Jadon Sancho. Well, of course, it's not 100% there yet, but you can clearly see that he has the ability to do something magical. Maybe he might not score in these matches, but he can definitely influence the game and help make chances for his teammates, because that's his main game. He's a facilitator, he's a provider, and I believe that with his vision and with his quality, he can definitely cause us problems. But with Mendy and Carvajal, I believe that, of course, the defensive will cover Verde and Bellingham, Camavinga, etc. I believe that we can neutralize them as best as possible.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think the doubles will be very important in this game. Going back to Camavinga and helping in this situation, I think it's going to be really important, because Sancho's not going to be the type of guy to just stay on the wing and go for that 1v1 battle all the time. He will cut in. He will cause problems at every single part of the pitch, and so Real Madrid have to be ready for that. But although Sancho may be the guy who's getting the most attention right now for Borussia Dortmund, for me, I think the best player in this Dortmund team is Julian Brandt. I think he's such a fantastic player, and he doesn't get the rep for it. He doesn't get the plaudits for it, I think, in my opinion, because I think he does all his work quite quietly compared to Sancho, who likes to take on his man all the time, and is a really good player to watch. In terms of Brandt, he is a good player to watch, but he's more of a guy to find a good pass and play the right ball all the time, and he's been really good at this season so far. And for a guy who previously had been seen as a guy who maybe didn't live up to the potential, he's managed to recover all that, and he's carved himself a really good career at Dortmund. And I find him, he's done a really good job this season, and especially in these big games in the Champions League, he's been fantastic for Dortmund. I've highlighted one stat which I thought was really, really good from him, which was he's top 1% in key passes, which that's fantastic in terms of just finding the key ball and playing it to these guys up front. Maybe they don't put it away all the time, but I think Julian Brandt is fantastic at finding the pass that he needs to find, and then also creating all these chances. I think he can definitely cause us problems. Depends on who's going to be in the defensive midfield. I think it's going to be Camavinga, and so Camavinga's going to have to deal with this, as well as whoever's going to step up, whether it's going to be Nacho or Rudiger, who's going to step up from the defence and try and stop this pass. But that pocket of space where Julian Brandt likes to operate in, he tries to play in the left half space as well. I think that could cause us problems. But I think overall we have got the minerals to stop him. I think we just need to make sure that he doesn't receive the ball as much, and we need to try and neutralise him, because I think he is a key player for Dortmund. So what are your thoughts on Julian Brandt?
Yeah, I think he is an excellent player because he can play in deep positions, and of course sometimes he seems to be their best player. Their most naturally gifted player, their most exciting player, who can maybe take something out of nothing. He's one of these naturally gifted guys. Of course, they were told that he's maybe a bit inconsistent because he doesn't always start. But I think that he can be one of these guys who can come off the bench and impact the game. Or if he starts, he can definitely, early on is when Madrid are most vulnerable. So I believe that early in the game is when he can definitely cause a lot of problems for our players. Without Tchouaméni, I think that off the ball it's going to be a bit more difficult without Tchouaméni, if I'm being honest. I think Tchouaméni is very important to our game. I think he has shown that. But on the ball, of course, I know this is not in a Julian band, but on the ball we are better without Tchouaméni sometimes. But off the ball, to deal with guys like Julian, We need him on the field, so it's going to be a bit more tough and a bit more challenging, in my opinion, off the ball. But on the ball, I think we're going to be quite better. And I think Julian isn't that good of a defender when he's playing in deep positions as well. So I think that if he plays, it's going to be kind of topsy-turvy because there are positives and negatives for Dortmund.
He may not be a great defender as like a one-on-one defender, but he does work hard and he does press in that way. And I think maybe not he's not going to drop in a low block and play those that he's not going to play that type of defending, but he will work hard from the front and to try and win the ball back in that way. But I mean, we talk about these two guys here, but I think the main thing here for them is the fact that this is going to be a game where they're probably going to play this in a low block. I might be wrong there. I might be totally wrong, but we looked at that in the second leg against PSG. If you remember, they just sat back and absorbed every bit of pressure that PSG threw at them, and PSG really couldn't do anything about it. And so I think that something similar will be what they try to do. And I think, in my opinion, Dortmund have got some real weapons, because the other two guys that we haven't mentioned in attack, Nicholas Füllkrug and Karim Adeyemi, are fantastic at this, because Füllkrug's not the quickest. He's a quite slow attacker, journeyman, but he's worked his way to Dortmund now and the German national team. Nicholas Füllkrug, he's very good at heading the ball, and he's that type of guy who's strong and dominant in the air, and so that's going to be a tough matchup, especially if he's going up against Nacho. You've got a little bit of a problem there, and then Karim Adeyemi, who is registered as the quickest player in the Bundesliga. That's going to be a huge matchup. Whoever tries to track Adeyemi is going to have a tough time, especially if we're going to be playing a high line. Adeyemi is going to cause us problems, because although he hasn't had the best of form this season, I think guys like this who are so quick, who are so they just need one moment just to set a spark, and they're off. And you can't catch Adeyemi on the dribble. And when he's chasing after, when you're chasing after him, you might as well just hope that Courtois has to save it. So I think Adeyemi is going to be a huge thing for Dortmund to try and use that pace, and especially if they're in a low block, that pace of Adeyemi is going to be a key thing for the Dortmund if they're going to try and score in this game. And then Nicholas Füllkrug's hold-up play and his ability to head down the ball is going to be huge as well, because I think Rudiger's going to be you're going to try and get Rudiger on Füllkrug all the time, but that's not going to be how it transcends all the time. You're going to have to play Nacho against Füllkrug sometimes, because that's just matchup hunting, and you're going to have to do that. So what are your thoughts on these two guys who have got such physical and athletic gifts?
Yeah, with Adeyemi, I think he's the one that's going to give us a bit more of a scare, because he's so quick. But I think it all has to do a lot with maybe defensive positioning, and of course how high we take our line, because in any moment the game can change, and any defining moment is when a goal can be scored. So I think Dortmund have the weapons to give us a lot of issues, but with the names that we have in defense, I guess Carvajal has been doing better in one-on-one this season. I think Rudiger is quick. Nacho, hopefully he can have a big night in the Champions League and his first start to the final ever. Maybe his last game. So I believe that we have the players to combat them. It's just that we cannot let these simple mistakes, these simple slip-ups. A lot of the goals that we've scored, it's not down to the other team being better sometimes. Maybe that's down to bad defender and not to the concentration. And that can't happen in the final, in my opinion. And maybe because we don't have the ball, we would have the ball as much more than Dortmund would, compared to when we played City and Bayern. We would have the ball a lot more. So we cannot afford our defense to be that high, when Dortmund start to counter. So we have to be a bit more careful.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Adeyemi's matchup against Carvajal a little bit later when we talk about Real Madrid. But when they got the ball, it can be a huge swing. We're gonna have to make sure that we defend them well, and this may not happen as I intend. When I'm saying it's gonna be a low block. Dortmund could just totally have the ball and Real Madrid are playing on the counter attack, because we've seen that so many times this season where we've probably said that we should take dominance of the ball, but at the end of the day we just sit back. So this could be a potential ability for Dortmund to hold on to the ball, but I do see Dortmund sitting back, and I think a lot of the time, a game involving Real Madrid, it involves and it goes down to whoever Vinicius is matched up against, and I think that is the important bit in terms of for Real Madrid. Who is Vinicius matched up against? And he is matched up against Julian Ryerson, who's a 27-year-old right back, Norwegian right back, and he's a good player. I think he's a solid enough Bundesliga right back, and I think he definitely holds his own against Bundesliga wingers, good Bundesliga wingers. He holds his own against, but it's Vinicius Junior. This is a different ball game, and I don't think Julian Ryerson is going to be able to contain that on his own. And then you look at the help defenders that are coming to help him, because that is a lot of the time that is make or break for teams. Because if you recall, so far this season, Vinicius' best performances, the Bayern Munich game, he completely torched Joshua Kimmich. Then we look at the Barcelona game. Nobody could stay on to Vinicius, whether it was Koundé, whether it was Araujo. No one could stay on to Vinicius in that Supercopa game. And then Girona, Jan Couto, I feel so sorry for that guy, because he just got completely destroyed and turned inside out by Vinicius in that game. And all of these times, Vinicius had a weak matchup and weak help from his team, from the other opposition's teammates. And so if you look at Dortmund's help defence, it's Mats Hummels and Emre Can who are going to be coming over to that side to help Vinicius Junior. Now, in terms of pace, these guys can't match Vinicius. But in terms of experience, in terms of knowledge, in terms of all of that, I think Mats Hummels, you can't get much better than that. In terms of Emre Can, you can't get much better than that. I think these two guys are really, really smart. And you've seen guys like Raul Albiol be able to help despite not having physically, athletic ability. And so I think that could cause Vinicius a few problems. I think the best thing that could happen in this game is we bring on Joselu off the bench, and then Joselu drags these two defenders, because he is, at the end of the day, a centre-back magnet. He brings all the attention towards him, and it's a 1v1 matchup then again from Vinicius to Ryerson. And I wouldn't fancy a single right back in the world 1v1 apart from Kyle Walker against Vinicius, to be totally honest. So that's my opinion. I think Dortmund's got a few problems to deal with Vinicius on that right hand side, and I think they don't have the ability to deal with him. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Vinicius' matchup?
I think it's a bit difficult to really analyze that most of the times, because sometimes teams will just put two players on Vinicius and make it more difficult for him. However, I think that this time maybe we might have the numbers with Bellingham and Rodrigo. I believe that with the more numbers in attack, it's going to be a lot more easier for Vinicius to take the game to their opponents. That's why maybe signing someone like Mbappe is going to help Vinicius sometimes, because that's why I said sometimes, because of course you really never know what's going to work out, but there's going to be less attention on him. It's going to be difficult to focus the attention on him. Maybe if we have Bellingham and Rodrigo on the field at the same time, overloading these spaces, then I think it's going to be a better night for Vinicius, of course, because sometimes you can take players on their own, just like you did with Joshua Kimmich, in the Bernabeu. But of course, sometimes when teams double up on him and the team is compact, it's difficult for him to, really get going. But I believe that if we have the numbers, if we overload these spaces, then I think that this is if you have the ball a lot and we are not getting into scoring positions, and maybe we can call for Oslo. But I think that if we are winning this game and it's like maybe minutes 50, 60, then we should try and get another one. I don't think that someone like Oslo will be efficient there, because we're trying to maybe play on the counter and get these goals. So the important thing for me is scoring early and scoring first. If we can score an early goal, then I won't say that it means game over, but I would say it's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing, because scoring an early goal is definitely something that we should look out to. Because, for example, Dortmund, would have to step out. Their defense isn't that fast, and then there would be spaces for the guys like Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham to play these balls in behind. So the presence of some of our attackers depend on the game state within after 60 minutes. After 60 minutes, if we're behind, if we're trying, then we're going to see guys like Joselu come on. If not, then maybe after minute 60, I know first we're going to see Modric, then maybe Diaz, regardless of the situation. Then of course Joselu might come on after minute 75 if we need a goal. But I think Rodrigo, Vinicius, Bellingham will stay in the pitch as long as possible. We all know the first substitution can be either Modric for Cruz, then of course Diaz might come on for maybe a midfielder, like maybe I would say Camavinga or something like that. Then of course that means Valverde playing one side. Then if nothing changes, then I believe like Joselu would come on for maybe Rodrigo or something like that, or maybe Valverde or something like that. So it's according to the game state how the attack would look and how much freedom our players would have. So that's why it's important to score early. The earlier we score, the better it is for our attackers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think especially if we score early, we've had a few problems with this so far this season. Is the fact we've not been efficient in some games. And if we are efficient really early in this game, that does put Dortmund in a really compromising position, and something which Dortmund probably don't want, because their defense, if we go through it individually, Julian Ryerson's pretty quick. He's not exactly blistering quick. Hummels, he's let's just say his best days are behind him in terms of his pace. And then Nico Schlotterbeck, he's a good defender, but maybe not exactly some physical freak. And then Ian Maatsen is not going to be at that left back position for most of this game. He's going to be a little bit higher, and he's going to be playing as a wing back ultimately. So, if we score an early goal, there's a really good chance that we get a second, and that is very, very nice. So we have to be really, really efficient, and I think that's going to be key for this game. But another bit where I saw a lot of Real Madrid fans debating is the fact that Dortmund can't contain us in terms of midfield. If we look at their midfield, it's going to be Emre Can and Marcel Sabitzer. I think they've been really surprising in how well they've kept the ball actually so far this season in the Champions League. Against Atletico, they were really good at it. They just managed to keep the ball, and Atletico just couldn't get it off them. And against PSG, they always had their moments where they kept the ball really, really well, and PSG couldn't take it back off them. And especially with the athletic midfield like PSG's got, I think they caused a surprising amount of problems. Emre Can and Sabitzer, and the way Sabitzer likes to get forward and take a lot of shots is going to be a little bit of a concern, because I've always had this concern with Real Madrid defence in terms of their tracking. It's not been very good, because normally we've got Toni Kroos, who's obviously not going to track very well, and we've got Aurelien Tchouameni, that's been my main complaint about Tchouameni ever since he's joined Real Madrid, is the fact that his tracking's not been fantastic. So I think this is one area where I think Real Madrid could struggle, is the fact that we don't track the runners from the midfield, and so Marcel Sabitzer is a really key one who loves to get forward and take shots from that midfield. He's always done that since Leipzig. The Leipzig days, I remember him scoring so many fantastic goals from the midfield. But I think that's going to be one place we're going to have to be careful in. But I think Dortmund have a surprising ability to keep the ball, despite the fact their midfielders aren't exactly Xavi, Busquets, Iniesta. They're not that level of technicians, but they're surprisingly good, and I think they could cause a few problems if we're not careful. But I do think that our team is technically better than theirs. I think our midfield is technically better than theirs. And I think we're athletically better than them as well, because our midfield is very, very quick, very, very strong, very, very agile as well. So overall, I think that's a key battle. We need to make sure that we keep possession, and make sure that Emre Can and Marcel Sabitzer can't keep it very well, and so we have a little overload in that midfield area. So what are your thoughts on their midfield versus ours?
Yeah, I think they're both hard-working players, but as long as we have the ball, we can play the ball around them with Toni Kroos starting this game, we will definitely be the team that's controlling the game, in my opinion. I think their midfield will mostly be tracking Vinicius and Rodrigo and Bellingham, etc. I think that's going to be the main let's say, focus of their midfield, and as long as we can keep the ball, we're going to dominate this game. So at their midfield, there is like players who are going to keep the ball, like similar to City or Bayern, when they can control the game, or even Barcelona, where you can control the game. Their midfield with hard-working guys who can maybe play in transition or have the energy to get up and down the pitch. So I think that we have the talent and the players and the ability and of course hopefully the tactics, to outplay Dortmund in these games. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, just a final quick note on Dortmund as well. If I was to quickly run through their predicted lineup, Gregor Kobel in goal, right back Julian Rice and centre backs Hummels and Schlotterbeck, left back Ian Martsen, defensive midfielders Emre Can, and then the other midfielders of Sabitzer and Julian Brandt, and then the front three of Jadon Sancho, Karim Adeyemi, and Nicolas Füllkrug. So that's the team for Dortmund. That's, I think, pretty dead certain, to be honest. I don't think there's much deliberation on Dortmund's side in terms of these guys. Off the bench, they've got a few problems, that they could bring on. In terms of Marco Reus is obviously one of the main talking points coming into this final, because it is his last game for Dortmund, and a lot of people want him to win the Champions League final. Not me, because I don't want to see him win this, but he's obviously been a fantastic player for Dortmund, and one of those guys who everyone loves, and he can definitely cause problems for us. He's very technical and very, very, if Dortmund are lacking a bit of quality in the final third, he can definitely provide that. Although he may not be athletically up to standard anymore, I think he can definitely cause us problems on the technical end. And so if Dortmund have a few problems, we have to be wary of those. Daniel Malen is also another guy who can cause us problems off the bench. He's quick, he can score, he can do everything practically. And so that is just something that we need to be careful about. He can play on both sides, and he can play up front as well. So we need to be careful of Marlon and see which side he comes on for. He'll probably be Adeyemi, to be honest, especially if Dortmund are losing, because Adeyemi can be quite invisible if he's not playing on the counter. He has that tendency. If he's playing in a dominant side, he does tend to be a bit quiet. So that's something to be careful about. And then Yusufa Moukoko is another guy who can come on. But apart from that, those two guys are probably the main guys that will come on. I'm not really sure who else will come on in terms of this Dortmund team. I'm not sure who their go-to substitutions are. Obviously, we know Real Madrid's go-to substitutions is almost the same order every week. So that's obviously quite obvious. But are you worried about Dortmund's substitutions and their ability to change the game off the bench, especially someone like Marco Reus?
I'll say not particularly, because of course this is not me underestimating Dortmund anyway, but I believe that I'm more concerned about maybe the start the games where we will have some lapses when guys like Adeyemi can maybe have that one moment that can define a game, but I believe that our substitutions can be effective as well. For example, I believe that we have played so many different formations and systems this season that we have the numbers regardless of an entry to Chouameni or Araba who's not there, that we can define the game, in my opinion. Like, for example, without Camavinga and Chouameni, we played 4-4-2 with Camavinga, Tony in the midfield. In those two positions, with Bellingham and Diaz in the wide midfield positions. I believe that we have played so many options that we can change the game utilizing our midfield options. Bellingham can jump deeper, and we can have more attacking options like Diaz and who's off the bench. So I believe that they should be a bit more concerned with our changes and our tactical flexibility, in my opinion, because that's what we can do. And the main thing for us is that we have constantly done this for the past 3 seasons. Our teams have impacted the game off the bench, so I'm a bit more confident in what we can do compared to what they can do.
Yeah, I think I'm confident in our team. I'm confident in neutralising Dortmund. But speaking of our team, let's get on to our starting lineup. And we'll go through and we'll discuss some of the main talking points from this starting lineup. Starting with the goalkeeper, because it looks like Andrew Lunin is not going to start this final, and it looks like he's potentially not even travelling to London for the Champions League final, which is a big shame because he's got illness, and Real Madrid do not want him to spread that to the rest of the squad. But Thibaut Courtois looks like he's going to start this lineup, and it seems very wrong morally on a moral standpoint. But seeing Courtois play these games and seeing how well he plays, it's just like you can't drop him. If he's fit, you can't drop him, and that's I feel so sorry for Lunin because he's been fantastic, but Thibaut Courtois is on a different level, and we did forget that for the 9 months he was injured. We did forget all that, and as soon as he comes back and he just reminds us how good he is, and it just it is a bit of a shame for Andrew Lunin, but at the end of the day it's Thibaut Courtois, and he gives us the best chance of winning this Champions League final at the end of the day. And if he makes a mistake in this final, then we come back and we say, oh, Andrew Lunin probably should have started. But at this stage, it's got to be Courtois, right?
Yeah, and of course, I think we tend to forget that Lunin had some, let's say, weird moments in some games as well. Like, for example, the first goal against City, the 2 goals against Barcelona. I think he could have done better in these situations as well. I'm not too sure again for the Bayern game, but I can't remember any specific goals. So I think that maybe he should have saved maybe one out of the...
Maybe the Sané one.
Yeah, on his near post. Courtois got beat on his near post for the Bernardo Silva goal in the semi-final last year. So, I mean, sometimes it's difficult to really question a goalkeeper when they get beat on their near post. It's not that easy as it seems, but I think the moment that was concerned about Lunin was, I guess, how difficult it's going to be in the air with Dortmund and set pieces in both situations. Courtois is much better and much more suited to it. He's taller and he has more confidence. He's a bit, just by the size, teams would stay in a bit more so. So I think that Courtois starting is a good thing for Madrid. I think, of course, he's the best goalkeeper in the world. Before his injury, maybe now he's getting back to his best, but I think that it's going to take some time for him to be back at his best, but I think he's still better than of course, Lunin has the flu, so I think it's of course no doubt who's going to start. The big question is if something happens to Courtois, will Lunin come on or will Kepa come on? So that's something that maybe isn't talked about enough because a goalkeeper isn't really expected to get injured, but maybe Kepa is in a better position to have an impact off the bench if something happens to Courtois. I actually trust Kepa. I like him a lot. It's just that Lunin is the better goalkeeper, and it's fair that Lunin got the opportunity to replace Courtois. Maybe we should have signed maybe a goalkeeper who got back up Lunin for the season. But I think when Kepa was signed, I was happy with the signing. And if Lunin isn't at his best, and let's say Kepa has to come off the bench and take it, I think I would trust Kepa as well to have a good performance, because Kepa and Lunin are similar in my opinion. They both punch the ball instead of catching the crosses, because these high crosses isn't their strong point. So it's similar issues with Kepa and Lunin. I think the difference, in my opinion, is confidence, because Kepa has made wonderful saves this season. He has amazing reflexes. I'm not doubting his ability, and doubting both goalkeepers on their ability with high balls into their 6-yard. That's more within the penalty spot. I think that's their biggest concern, in my opinion, and I would trust Courtois more in a situation like that. So I think that's the position where we have to talk about the most, because I think the start lineup is set in stone by now. But with the goalkeeping thing, I think if something happens to Courtois who comes on, I'm comfortable with both goalkeepers. But we both have seen this season with Courtois as number one.
Yeah, I think if I'm Lunin, I'm concerned because he's back to the same position he were a year ago. And although it may seem like he isn't, I think he is in the same position as he was a year ago, to be totally honest. Because Courtois, whenever Courtois is fit, he's starting. There's no question about it. So
But I believe that that he can actually get maybe 5 extra games with his performance. Maybe he might be trusted for the last 2 Champions League group stage matches. He might get the entire Copa del Rey, because instead of Courtois coming back in the latter stages, and he might get maybe a couple of La Liga games early on or something like that. I don't know, but I think he deserves to at least play like 10 games next season if Courtois is really fit.
In an ideal world that's true, but I think in a situation where, let's say, we aren't qualified by the last 2 games of the group stage, Courtois playing. If we go to the Copa del Rey semi-final like we did last year and play Barcelona, then suddenly Courtois back in for both legs. If we haven't wrapped up a league title by the final few games, Courtois is going to play those games, and suddenly Andrew Lunen's games are suddenly reduced to the first few Copa del Rey games. So that's it. So it's a bit of a concern for him, I think. But what can you do at the end of the day? He's got an uncertain position right now, playing backup goalkeeper to the best goalkeeper in the world. It's a difficult position, but what can he do? What can he do more? This is that's it. But let's move on to the right back. Dani Carvajal versus Adeyemi is obviously going to be the matchup, and I'm a bit concerned because Dani Carvajal has a tendency to struggle at points with these quick, agile, quick movement players like Adeyemi, and especially someone like Ian Martin comes and putting doubles up on Dani Carvajal. That could be a bit of an issue, but I trust Fede Valverde to come back and help. And I trust the fact that Dani Carvajal knows what he's doing. He's experienced enough. And if we remember 2 years ago, everyone had the concerns about Dani Carvajal versus Luis Diaz, and we didn't hear a peep from Luis Diaz in that final. So, what are your thoughts on this matchup from Dani Carvajal?
Yeah, but Adeyemi is faster, in my opinion. I think in my opinion, he could be a better player and he's more dangerous due to his speed. I think Luis Diaz is really skillful. I think it's easier for Carvajal to deal with that when the team is compact. But in quick transitions, I think it's more difficult to deal with Adeyemi. So, of course, it's going to be natural under the guy in a lot of positions we will have to cover sometimes. I think I'm comfortable with that. It's not just about Carvajal. But I think this time, I don't think it's more about Valverde, because Adeyemi tends to maybe coming behind guys like Diaz and Jack Grealish. It's more about how skillful they are to beat their man. With Adeyemi is more like in behind, so that's why it's more or less steady this time. I think Carvajal are more how good Nacho and Tony can cover. So I think if Tony plays on the right side, it's going to be easier. And let Nacho play on the other side. So I think that's what the team normally does. So like I said, I'm confident in our defensive, our natural defensive ability to have a positive impact.
Yeah, and moving on to the centre backs, Rudiger and Nacho, pretty obvious here. How big?
Go on, sorry.
How big do you reckon Rudiger's going to be in this match?
Yeah, like I said, with the transition and with the balls in behind the defense, I think he's going to be our main guy. I think him and Nacho have a good partnership, in my opinion, since last year. I think we spoke about that last year when we set up Militao and Alaba have a good partnership, and Nacho and Tony have a good one. So I'm confident over the Tony Militao partnership. Of course, Militao has been injured for the entire season, not like a couple of months ago, but Militao hasn't been, amazing. I think he hasn't been amazing in the cameos. He has been decent in the cameos in the Champions League against Barcelona, against Bayern and City. He was okay. I think he struggled in the 90-minute game. So if something happens, our defenders have no suit him coming on. I think this task gets a bit more difficult to throw him in. But at the end of it all, I'm quite confident in the starting 11's ability in terms of the centre backs.
Yeah, I mean, we'd hoped that Eder Militao would have been fit for this final. We'd have hoped he'd have been fit for the game against Man City. So, we've been waiting. But at the end of the day, I think it's probably not going to happen this season. I think it's just been like, let's get him back to some sort of fitness this season, and then he's back next season. That's just the hope. I think this season was just a buy for him, and I think that's fine because we've got past every round and pretty easily as well. And this centre back hasn't been an issue for us. But if we need him later on in the game, trying to defend a 1-0 lead, let's say, I think he's fantastic to just head the ball out and play that way. So yeah, that's completely fine on my part. Left back, we've already discussed Ferland Mendy versus Jadon Sancho, but I assume you've put Ferland Mendy here.
Yeah, Ferland Mendy, and even if Ferland Mendy is coming off due to some injury or some tactical reason, I think Camavinga stays on the pitch. And I would say I'll take Mendy off before I take a midfielder off. If I have to switch the game, have Modric come on, Diaz come on, I'd quicker take Mendy off over Camavinga. And you have to understand that if that's the case, it's because we are losing and we need a goal. So other than that, if we are winning, if we are drawing, Mendy's on the pitch. If we are losing, Mendy's off the pitch, man. But until the defense is amazing, until the attack is decent, it's not that amazing. So I would keep Mendy on the pitch as long as we are ahead or enjoying the game. If not, then Camavinga at left back, or even Garcia at left back if the situation becomes desperate. But like an extra time and legs are tired and you're making these substitutions, like because Vasquez is coming on for Vinicius and those various substitutions. But I think that if Mendy is starting, of course we have options to cover him. I think the Camavinga substitution, similar to the Chouameni substitution, I would explain this one as well. If you move Camavinga to left back, you can always throw on Garcia later on in the game and make a switch. If let's say we lack the number due to injuries, etc. But if the straight stop with Camavinga off, I think you lack the option, similar to like when you took off Nacho, put Chouameni at centre back. In hindsight, that decision is maybe thinking the Nacho that the coach doesn't trust him. But I think you have to understand from another point of view that if you have Chouameni on the pitch, it's easier to, if you need Chouameni later on in the game, then you can show on another defender like Militao to come on and play centre back and just push Chouameni back up to defensive midfield. In these substitutions, the longer your midfielders stay on the pitch is better because you need your midfielders late in the game in case you need to switch something. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, in my opinion. But I think the longer Camavinga stays on the pitch, he'll become more vital than Ferland Mendy in extra time. I'd want Camavinga on the pitch, not Ferland Mendy. So I think that maybe that's something that Ancelotti, I know it's something that Ancelotti thinks as well because of his substitutions. It's maybe something I picked up on. But in terms of starting, Mendy's the starter, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about options, like you said. We want to maintain our options later on in the match, especially when Dortmund don't have as many. And so I think playing Camavinga left back is a huge option for us to have and definitely changes the game for us. So yeah, like you said, everything you said was great there. But let's move on to midfield. We haven't even talked about Toni Kroos, but obviously I put Camavinga defensive midfield, Toni Kroos left centre midfield, right centre mid, or in this midfield four, you obviously got Kroos, Valverde, Camavinga, and Jude Bellingham. So I mean, we've got to talk about Toni Kroos because final time he's involved in this team, and it's the final game that he plays for Real Madrid. It's only befitting that he plays the Champions League game as his final game. And yeah, I just think we have to bring it home just for Toni Kroos because this is, talking about some guy this is his potential 6th Champions League, which is ridiculous. That is a ridiculous feat, to go for 6 Champions Leagues at 2 different clubs as well. Let's not forget that as well. It's not just at Real Madrid. He won one at Bayern Munich as well. So I just think, he was involved. I believe he would have been involved in the team that beat Dortmund at Wembley last time. So that's obviously a huge factor in this. But Toni Kroos, this is his final game. He's obviously going to be so important in us keeping the tempo of this game, and especially against, like I said earlier, a midfield who maybe aren't as technically as good as us. I think Toni Kroos will be so important in keeping the ball. And if we look on the other side, Fede is going to be so important at doubling down that right hand side, tracking Ian Matson, as well as trying to help us on the offensive end, trying to advance the ball, progress the ball, and just doing everything for us. And then Jude Bellingham, star man, coming up against his old team. There's the storyline. There's the story for us, and I believe that Jude Bellingham can take us to the promised land and win us this first Champions League in his first year. I think that would be huge for him as a player, as especially against his old club, against Borussia Dortmund, and I think he's got every chance of winning this. So I say he's going to be huge for us to try and, especially in that pocket, dragging defenders away from Vinicius, giving Vinicius that 1v1 matchup. I think this is going to be a huge matchup for Jude Bellingham, as well as Toni Kroos, as well as Fede Valverde, and we've obviously discussed Camavinga already. So I assume you've got the same midfielder as me. There's not many options.
Yeah, it's not that we don't have many options, but I think this is the best possible option to start and win this game, in my opinion. I think Camavinga off the ball is better than Chouameni. On the ball is better than Chouameni. I think Camavinga can help us open up space in higher positions. He's had 2 excellent assists this season, one against, I think, Las Palmas, so the mini goal, and then one at the Bernabeu not too long ago. I can't remember the game, but yeah, I think it was Cadiz at the Bernabeu, I think. The day we won the league, I think so. And good assists in that game. So
Yeah.
Camavinga on the ball is going to give us more options than Chouameni, in my opinion. So I think it's according to how you look at it. I think you have to take the positives of Camavinga playing and starting this game over Chouameni. So and even though we might not have options, I believe that I'm going to show this out quickly that they actually played a 4-4-2 system. A 4-4-2 system in the game against, I think it was Valencia, when we did really well and we won 5-4-0 or something like that.
Yeah, that's the game that comes to mind as well.
Yeah, with Bellingham and Diaz playing in wide. Was it not Bellingham? I think he's injured, but I think Diaz played in a wide midfield position, and when Bellingham came back, he also played in a wide midfield position. I think against in the Champions League against Napoli or one of these games as well, there was a double pivot with Valverde and Toni Kroos. So I think even if we barely have midfield options, I think the team have been flexible in their playing this season to play with more attackers and less midfielders. So I'm confident that we can do well regardless of the situation. That's why I'm saying that off the bench, happy the options we have, so I'm content.
Yeah, and obviously Toni Kroos last season. What are your thoughts about this last game for him? Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I don't quite hear you. What's that?
What are your thoughts on Toni Kroos' last game for Real Madrid?
Maybe first time it's too early for him to retire because he's still at his best, but at the end of the day, that's what he wanted, that's what he said he wanted. So, of course, the situation with him and Modric is quite different for me. You know, I've always been a big advocate for both of them staying at Madrid for the rest of their careers and hanging on their boots at club level at this club. So for me, I support the decision. Modric wants to keep playing. Toni wanted to stop. The main thing for me is that he's retiring when he wants and he's happy with his decision. We haven't seen that at Madrid for a long time and finally get to see this season. So that's why I'm happy about it. With Modric, I think it's clear that he has the ability to still play for us. He wants to play another year, so having him leave now, it will be like a dagger to some of our hearts, if I'm being honest, because he can still contribute off the bench. With Toni, in my opinion, he is the better starter. Modric is a better finisher of the games. I think we would have spoken about that 2 years ago. But now, it's clear that Toni is ending his career at a high, and that's what he wanted. Similar to Modric, Modric wants to keep playing. He definitely has the ability to keep playing. But for me, once both players get the respect that they deserve, I'm happy with how things are.
Yeah, I think this can be a huge game for both of them. Last game they ever played together. They're probably not going to play together, but it's going to be huge for them. Then the front two, we've obviously discussed Vinicius already, but the other guy, Rodrigo, has been involved in heavy rumours with Manchester City this week. Stupid rumours, I'd like to add as well, and he's going to prove that tomorrow as well. He's going to prove that because he's going to put in a truly fantastic big match performance. I'm really confident about this. I think he's fantastic, and I want him to stay no matter what. So for me, Rodrigo is going to be a huge player for this game, and I really wanted to perform well and win us the Champions League, because last time out it was Vinicius who got the winning goal. This time I have real confidence that it will be Rodrigo that wins us the Champions League. So what are your thoughts on Rodrigo and Vinicius as the front two in this game?
Yeah, I think that Rodrigo and Vinicius can both exploit Dortmund in between the centre back and the wing back, in my opinion, because that's where just faces the most interest. I think both the guys have, well, Vinicius especially, have mastered that this season in behind. For me, I only thought that Vinicius was good as a striker and FIFA, in my opinion, because I remember when I would play Benzema as a centre attacking midfielder with Vinicius as a striker, Rodrigo and Valverde as a wide midfielders. All the balls in behind Vinicius was so fast that he was able to get it. And of course, in FIFA that works, but Vinicius never really had the mindset or the technical ability to play as a centre forward. But this season, he has finally got it. And Vinicius up against any centre back, if a ball is behind the defence, I think we know that he's the main guy who's going to win that. Even against Van Dijk. He's going to win that battle, so I'm happy that his movement has become so good this season. I think sometimes he's a facilitator, sometimes Rodrigo is a facilitator, but both times I think that they're flexible enough to make changes and go wider, and then in those in-game moments that Ancelotti spoke about, where he gave the players the freedom to make those choices, was going to define this game. And of course, through the attack as well, to maybe get onto those crosses or those throw balls into the box. I think that we have the players who can win this game for us. So the only thing that I'm thinking about is, for example, we have a quality squad, and I won't change it for anything. Our quality is there. But of course for me the main concern would be something like, if we can maybe do so much on the ball, and Vinicius and Rodrigo, they are both facilitators, just like Bellingham, and if we cannot find that finish, this will be the only game where not having a striker would cost us, and it's going to be the biggest game of the season, because of all our players, we can argue that even though they are good finishers and good goal getters, that none of them are like the number 9 that's going to get you a goal. Like Cristiano or Benzema a couple of years ago, maybe Mbappe or Haaland. None of them are like strikers who is typically defined to get you the goal. They're all facilitators. So hopefully that in this game, I know what the headline will be. If we cannot get a goal or break them down, it's simply going to be that good squad, good players, but this is a game that we have finally caught up to us, where we don't have a finisher to capitalize on all the chances that we have created. So I think if we lose this game, it's going to be on us. We have to take our chances, and we have to open our spaces on our own. Ancelotti has to make the best possible solutions, because we are the best team, we are the better team. Dortmund hasn't been that good this season, so it's on us to win this game.
Yeah, no team has managed to keep us goalless this season. So, that being said, if Dortmund the first ones, I'll be really disappointed. But we've always got the firepower off the bench. Modric, first substitution. Second substitution, Brahim Diaz. Third one will probably be Joselu. Fourth one, what are we saying? Lucas Vasquez. The fifth one, I thought maybe Arda Güler as a one last swing for Carlo Ancelotti. But obviously that's gonna be the substitutions, and maybe if we need that one last bit of firepower, there you go. That's the guy. Those are the guys to bring on. But it's time, prediction time. The last time Real Madrid played against Dortmund was, I'd like to say 17-18. In the group stages, I believe we drew 1-1. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's been a long while since we played Dortmund. I believe the only player that would have been in that squad is obviously Marco Reus. So been a long time since we played Dortmund, and it's not really the same squad. But the most notable games, obviously the 4-0 where Lewandowski scored quite a few goals. But that's obviously one of the most notable ones. But we did go back and beat them next year, so we got our revenge. I'm gonna say, Champions League over these last few years have been really dull. The finals have been really dull. So I'm gonna say 1-0 Real Madrid win, with the Rodrigo goal in the 54th minute. What was your prediction for this game?
I'm going to say maybe 2-0. 2-0, I think we could win this game 2-0. Similar to, I guess, maybe Liverpool's first game. I think we might score early, then we might score maybe in the second half. But 2-0 is a fair result in my opinion in terms of a good prediction.
Yeah, it could go either way. I'm really excited personally for this Champions League final. We're very privileged to have seen Real Madrid in so many Champions League finals. Here's one more. Here's one more for Real Madrid, and we don't tend to see Real Madrid losing in finals, let alone Champions League finals. So hopefully this is another one. This is another Champions League to add to the collection. But Dortmund are there to upset us. They've upset quite a few teams already this season, and they've come all this way. Don't underestimate them, because if they're in the Champions League finals, they deserve to be there. So you definitely shouldn't underestimate Dortmund. But that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this Champions League preview. We will be back on Sunday, hopefully with a Champions League trophy, number 15, locked in. But that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please enjoy the match tomorrow at Wembley, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.